Hey everybody, how's it? What's going on? So yeah, this morning I woke up and had a couple of things that I wanted to do, and I wanted to maybe put a new um, reaction video on my Decomposer Lounge channel, and I found myself like getting all kind of overwhelmed. What should I do? And, at the same token, still just kind of sorting out a lot of things about my YouTube experience. And at that point, I realized that when I get that way, I have to kind of stand back and emotionally, I know I've been talking a lot about the ADHD trip I've been on, evaluating my life, especially now that I'm at this age. And I've known that I've had some kind of character trait that made it so that I couldn't focus. It was hard for me to stay, um, uh, my, focus on anything for a long period of time, or and also feeling very socially awkward because of it. The other video I did, kind of that fear of silence. So all of a sudden, I outburst in talk. But one of the things as I was going through, kind of just assessing where I was at and stuff, has to also do with the job that I'm on right now, which is a very finite kind of part of being a music composer, which is composing music for music libraries. And I started thinking and going through some of my older stuff all the way back from the 90s and the many different styles I've had, that I realized that I think my condition, my disorder, helped shape me without a doubt to become the composer that I was, in the sense that I've made a complete career out of writing for these music libraries because I can write so many different styles. Now hang on for a second. This isn't a braggadocious moment. I'm not maybe anywhere better from a 1 to 10 to maybe a 4 or a 5 in each one of those genres. But I did it well enough so that my work was received well by the publishers. It could be jazz, fusion, hip hop, techno, time period, Renaissance, Baroque, classical, you name it, death metal, metalcore, all this sort of stuff that comes and goes through pop culture music that music libraries may want. I'm like, yeah, I got this. But it's not I got this because I have an extreme amount of talent, as much as it is that I challenge myself to dive into something and I do the best that I can with it and I move on. So like I've been playing guitar my whole life, but I only consider myself like a 2 or a 3 on the level of 1 to 10 because I did not sit down and spend my life woodshedding on it as much as like I get a job or something, work out the chords, work out a solo or something, and then I would put down my guitar. It could be a couple months before I would touch the guitar. And that was true through my whole journey because as a kid, at 5, I was already taking violin lessons, got bored of that for a couple of years. Then I took piano lessons, got bored of that within about a year. And then I took classical guitar lessons for 3 years, and I got bored with that, doing recitals and stuff like that. And as I ventured into junior high school, drums came into key, and I was like, ooh, I'm feeling that. There's something rhythmically and sensory-wise that's really appealing about drums, multiple rhythms and things going on. And maybe that was matching what was happening in my head that I couldn't figure out why, at least outwardly, outside of music, I couldn't really function that well, both be it in school academically or socially, And then after the drums, then came bass as well, drums and bass during that same period, then 3 years of choir. And then I'm combining all that stuff. And then I just all blew it up in the air because I was like, oh, okay, fine. And then went down my journey in life. Through that period, my dad was building a recording studio in the late 70s. And I kind of got a little technically inclined and then dove into that and dove into, engineering and excuse me, setting up MIDI and doing all this stuff. So that by the time the late 80s comes, or the mid 80s actually, and I get these weird opportunities because I'm working at studios that, can I do an overdub for somebody, or can I play a little bit of something like this, that all of a sudden some artist needed their minute and 30-second piece of music for Star Search. You had to take a piece of music, even if you were covering it as a contestant, and you would have to knock it down to a minute 30. And I did it for one young lady, and all of a sudden I got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and then that started my career. And then most of you already know the rest of my journey. But when I look at the fact that even to this day, at my age, having this thing that I have, that we have, and it's not like I'm trying to stay away from saying the word ADHD. I'm just trying to acknowledge it, that these are personality traits, character traits. I think it's because I'm trying to fight not wanting to be in a box, and it's not a bad thing. It's a personal choice. And, come to find out that there's tons of people out there who have different conditions, be it, what do they call the latest term? It's a spectrum, are coming out of the woodworks because they're actors and geniuses and sportsmen and musicians and painters and all these people that are extremely creative, and not meaning creative like the arts too, creative thinking, all these incredible, powerfully men and women that have made a huge impression on the world, publicly and intellectually and everything, and have been diagnosed with something. I think without a doubt, for myself, to circle back into it, there's no two ways about it, but my condition of not being able to focus and all the things that are labeled as traits for ADHD, without a doubt, shaped my composing career. To this day, right now, I'm working on a music. I just got a job order a while ago, as I mentioned earlier, and then I've got a horror film short thing I'm working on. Two different completely genres and everything, and I don't think I'd be able to consider my abilities to handle it and do it if I didn't have confidence in my kind of thinking, So there's no two ways about it. In my world, the inability to be in order, and I have this disorder, contributed to the success of my career. There's no two ways about it. I think to each his own, and how they manage with whatever challenges they may have with character traits or these conditions and stuff like that. I think it really has to do a lot with the support system around an individual when they have when they are told that they have a condition, a disorder, or some kind of a challenge. I think if the support system around them is still very encouraging and stuff, I think it can yield without a doubt a very fruitful life. And here I am in my early 60s, as well as many other people who are now coming out and talking about it, who've had really happy lives. I didn't use the word successful because success means so many different things to so many different people. But being happy, I think is without a doubt the most important thing in a life. Now, of course, that in of itself takes a lot of work. I came across a video that disappointed me a lot about an individual that said people who were positive were really covering up or masking a lot of darkness in their lives. I was like going, this SOB has no idea what he's saying. Then again, who am I to say whatever his opinion is? But I didn't feel, that was probably one of the very few times where I felt like, whoa, this is easily diagnosed. If you're going to sit there and diagnose people as if positive people are covering and masking stuff, I'm like, this mother, and I'm not even going to put a link in it. I'm not even going to put any energy into that. But there are people out there that will state things such as that. And then when I watched and I looked in his eyes and I listened really hard, I realized how deep in, let's say, his own heaviness this gentleman was. He was probably in his 70s. And maybe he's had a whole lifetime of it, and maybe he never got around to, the work that it takes to be positive so you can make those choices. Anyhow, like usual, this went from one thing to another because that's what I do. But, you guys take care of yourselves. Have a great day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. Embrace your character traits, and don't call them flaws. These are just things that we're made up of. And just like I've said before in a couple of my other videos that broach this subject matter, just people like to put people in a box and give them a label. And that's just what happens. And you're not in a box, you're not in a label that you cannot maneuver through or, completely blow out of. It depends on if that box really exists in here. Anyhow, this was a much longer video than I wanted it to be, but my brain was going pew, pew, pew. All right, guys, you take care of yourself. Have a killer day, evening, morning, whatever it is. All right.